Good morning. It's the Call Flow Radio Show, and you're on the air.
Well, good morning. Welcome to the Call Flow Radio Show. It is your Thursday, July the 11th, if I am correct. This is Chris Wood with you. The number to call, 434-394-0924, but we ask you to hold off calling for this first segment of the show because we do have a special guest in the Francis E. Wood studio here, and he's no stranger to the microphone. We've got our illustrious mayor, Brian Vincent. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, and I hope that you are as well.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. We had a meeting last night that ran a little longer than our meetings normally do, but that's because we had a packed agenda, and so yeah, it was a good time, and the rain came right as we were leaving.
Oh, I would tell you. It was wonderful. It was around 8 o'clock or, about that time. Anyway, the skies just opened up, and I got about an inch and a quarter of rain at my farm, and that was fantastic. Very much needed. Of course, the lightning it drove me inside a couple of times. Anyway, it was pretty close, pretty intense, but it was nonetheless much needed rainfall.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pleasant welcome sound to hear as we were sitting in the council chambers. So,
All right. Well, tell us all about what happened.
So we had a packed meeting last night. We had the introduction of a new Farmville Fire Department employee, Mr. Stolzis. We had an introduction of the new Human Resources Director, Ms. Zirkle. And then we got into kind of the bulk of our meeting, which we had a bunch of public hearings on some ordinances around rezoning a section of Griffin and allowing food trucks in one of our residential zones. So R3 is our higher density residential zone for the town of Farmville. We have R1, R2, R3. And the Planning Commission recommended council to pass the ordinance making conditional use for mobile food trucks in R3 zones. So we did that. And then the real meat of the meeting was around the idea of taking a section of Griffin up to Edmonds and rezoning it from R1, which it is now, which is your bigger lots, single-family home style zoning, to R3, which is our higher density zoning. Now, the rationale behind that was there has been some folks who have property there who wanted to do businesses in that district.
Oh, really?
And there's already businesses in that district.
Really?
Well, yes. There's business. There's a barber shop. There's some civic groups. There's a funeral home. There's lots of businesses in that stretch.
I
right?
got you.
Because they got grandfathered in before town had zoning. So now they're what you would call non-conforming. They don't conform to that zoning, which is fine. They were grandfathered in. But if the council were to move it from R1 to R3 in that section, a lot of those businesses become what you would say is conditional uses within R3. So they would actually kind of fit a little bit better.
Right.
And then it would also allow for some more flexibility to continue in that area. And so one of the discussions was previously there had been the idea for an IV bar / convenience store in that neighborhood, and the residents had said they weren't in favor of that. And the general idea seemed to be because the IV bar thing was more of a medical facility, and they just didn't like the idea of it. And so the concern was, well, if you change it to R3, then convenience stores do become by right in R3, which means they can just happen. They don't need a conditional use permit. So we discussed that, and ultimately council decided that despite the fact that the Planning Commission voted against doing this 3-2, they had 2 commission members missing, that they thought it was still a good idea. The town administration was still recommending it, and so they voted it through 5-1 to rezone that section of Griffin from R1 to R3. There are, I think, 21 lots in that section. 2 of them are going to be demolished for the roundabout, which we'll get to because that's a hot topic.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And then I
think I'll sit down for this one.
That's right. And then there's 1 single family home. There's 4 rental units. There's a bunch of parking lots. And then there's a pile of businesses, like 4 businesses there. So it's kind of a mixed zone already. So it'll now be zoned more appropriately for that. And I think from my personal perspective, that is a connector road there. It's an alternate for 15
yes,
already.
Is.
So it already gets traffic.
Right.
And having it be across the street from the university, allowing a little more flexibility there for economic development potential, I think is good.
Like eateries or something like that.
Or just like, just expounding upon the options there. So there'll be the opportunity for food trucks to pop up there now, that sort of thing.
These are mobile
food trucks, correct, right. There'll still be conditional use. So there are conditional, you have to get a permit and you have to go through the process to get that availability. We had to amend the official zoning map to account for that change and the comprehensive plan to reflect those zoning amendments that we passed. And so all that went through. And that's just kind of cleaning up the language around your comp plan and your zoning map as a result of those other ordinances that changed the zoning. Mm-hmm. And then we talked about a conditional use permit to allow an automobile repair service on East 3rd Street. Mm-hmm. The property is zoned B2 transitional commercial. It's going to be a tire repair company. That was passed through the Planning Commission, recommended that council pass, and council did pass. And then the last one was an ADU, so an accessory dwelling unit for a house off Spotswood Drive. They were going to put in what would technically be like a mother-in-law suite on their property. Mm-hmm. And so we passed a conditional use permit to allow that accessory dwelling unit into that area. And so that's one of those things. ADUs are listed in our strategic plan when we talk about increasing our diversity of housing, finding ways to allow ADUs to help with that. And so that passed and went well. We got the finance report from Miss Julie Moore, which, of course, she always does an excellent job and did an excellent job again. Just detailing May and June finance reports, and everything is great, and we continue to earn money in our investments, and we always like that. Mm-hmm. And then we had the ordinance number 228, which was about the parking meter stuff. It was a big discussion. We had people come in to the council meeting last meeting. There was a discussion of moving the parking meter fines from $25 to $50. Council decided that was too much, and they didn't want to do that, so they kept it at $25. But they did vote to increase parking fines if you park in a fire hydrant zone or you park in a handicap parking spot. So your fine will be, I think they go to $150, I think is where they're at. And then we did we had our performance evaluations for the town manager and the town clerk, which are in closed session because they're personnel matters. Mm-hmm. But we did do those, and everybody acknowledged the good work that they do. And Mr. Davis did get another raise of $5,000 coming out of that meeting, which puts him sort of competitively with town managers in our area. And that was one of the concerns. There's a town manager who was hired in South Boston for $160. And so you start to look at where your guy is, and you don't want to lose good people. And so you got to take that into consideration because we have a good one. And then roundabout. I'll circle back to the roundabout. Circle, pun intended. It's been interesting because it hit the front page of the Herald, roundabout. And I appreciate the Herald, and they always do a great job reporting on local government. But in this one, I was a little miffed slightly in that it was presented as if this was like new information. Mm-hmm. Whereas for me, I know that it's been a topic of conversation, and there's been articles in the Herald since 2015 about the roundabout. Mm-hmm. There's been studies reported on since 2017. council has talked about it since at least 2017 through 2020 when it was passed by council. I was on council at that time. Mm-hmm. I was actually the one who raised the motion to adopt the plan from VDOT. So you see a lot of stuff. You see people ask, why are we spending money on this? Well, one, we're not. It's a VDOT Smart Scale funded project.
Oh.
So it's fully funded.
Okay.
So the town is not spending money on it. The town will take the opportunity, and we'll do this as part of our infrastructure plan. Anytime streets like that are taken up and projects are being done on them, we're going to go underneath and do our work on the infrastructure underneath.
Right.
Because it only makes sense. You don't want to tear the road up twice. So we will dedicate some time to that.
Are there going to be structures that will have to be demolished or moved or anything?
Yeah, so 2 of the houses that Longwood owns over there will be taken down.
Okay.
Yeah, so that'll clear space to make a bigger area for that roundabout. And yeah, the design phase is now, and that's what you're seeing is VDOT is in the design phase. They have a July 16th meeting. It's a VDOT meeting at their Commerce Road location where folks can come in and weigh in on the design phase of the roundabout. So the public hearings and the public meetings around the roundabout project itself have happened like 5 years ago.
Okay.
Where we heard from citizens, we talked to citizens, and then passed the approval of the project. So now that's in design phase, they're hoping to break ground within the next 2 years and then have it completed by 2028.
We were talking. You're talking about the students as far as the safety measures there.
Yep.
How is that going to?
Yeah, and VDOT, of course, takes all that into consideration, right? Like you study traffic patterns and you study where students are, and they're going to funnel a lot of those students away from that intersection.
Oh, okay. Right.
You just don't have crosswalks there.
You're right.
Right. So you will have to. There will be an adjustment period there. Most of the students these days, as we know, are on campus. Longwood restricted the availability to live off campus.
Oh, and I did not know that.
Yes. So they've brought a lot of the students back on campus. You have to have a special exemption to live off campus if you're, under a senior, I think, or something like that. And this is something you're going to see across the country as. And this has been another topic of conversation. Has been when Longwood did that a year or two ago. It aggravated some of our developers, like our Walk to Campus folks and those folks who had moved here and started businesses to house students, and that's understandable. But from my perspective, it was like if you look at the cliff, the birth rate cliff we're looking at, where birth rates are dropping, and the available supply of college students is going to continue to dwindle. Yeah. So you're just not going to have growth in enrollment, really. I mean, Longwood has seen growth. I think they've seen 4% growth this year, if not more, which is unique for colleges in our area and of that size. But overall, colleges and universities recognize there's this cliff of available bodies for educational purposes because we're just not seeing the same amount of people being born, and therefore you're not going to have the same percentage of people going to school for university. Plus the cost has gotten higher. But anyway, my point is students will be living on campus a significant amount of time, and I don't foresee that changing a whole bunch anytime soon. And so you'll have less traffic in that vein as well. Right now, I'll say it can be a little dangerous no matter who you are, like where you are. Because people are just walking across the street looking
regular
at their phone.
Pedestrians, right? Yeah.
I will say that, and from my perspective, and this is just me kind of off the cuff.
Because you live right up there.
I do live up there, anecdotally. That intersection is the bane of many people's existence because it does take so long. It cycles through every stoplight and every crosswalk, so you will sit there for a long time. And a lot of times people will take shortcuts around or long cuts around it. They'll do alley cuts and different things like that, and they'll accelerate through those alleys. So it creates dangerous zones for residential kids in that area because people are trying to cut around that intersection so they don't have to sit at that light for a long time. The other side of it, and this is something, you know, when people say why roundabouts, VDOT's perspective and the studies show that the accidents that happen at roundabouts are bumper to bumper small accidents versus accidents people trying to punch it through a light results in death and injury. So your accidents are less severe significantly. Now, I will say anecdotally, I don't know that there's evidence of this. There might be. But my thought has always been you put a roundabout in, and probably for like the first 4 years, there's a slight uptick in bumper accidents.
Yeah.
Because people just don't, like Americans freak out of a circle. Like they're just like, whoa, what is a circle thing? And so there's an adjustment period, right?
Yeah.
But after that, it all dovetails. After everybody acclimates to what it
well,
is.
the one in Keysville is, it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy now.
And, you know, I live there. I'll appreciate
Kingsville,
it.
I should say.
And yeah, as somebody who has traveled the world and traveled to other localities, even in Virginia, you go through Amherst, there's a traffic circle. You go to the Midlothian area, Chesterfield. There's traffic circles within shopping centers.
Yeah, going to Lake Monticello, there are two traffic circles.
You know, and once you get the concept
You
of
get
it,
the gist of
like it's not that difficult. I often tease that maybe we should build like a walking demo version of it at Town Hall so people can come down and like walk it and get used to the idea of what it is. But yeah, I think roundabouts are one of those things that you'll increasingly see more of. I was just telling who's the gentleman out there? Shoot, I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It happens to all of us.
Yeah, your other
John?
guy, John here. Yeah,
John Staten.
Talking about Carmel, Indiana. The mayor there calls them the capital, the world capital of roundabouts. And they have like 116 roundabouts in Carmel, Indiana.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, just replaced every stoplight with roundabouts. And people at first freaked out. But now they embrace it because everything's cleaner, it's nicer, traffic keeps flowing.
As long as people know how to read a yield sign.
Right. I was talking about that with somebody else the other day. It's like Virginia's unique in that
yield and merge are two different things.
Yeah,
you know.
People in Virginia don't pay any attention to yield signs. We just roll right through them.
Yeah.
But,
tell me about it. That's one of my pet peeves too.
Yeah. So that's always an interesting conversation. Anytime you bring up roundabout, you can post something on
So
Facebook.
when do they plan on starting construction?
Yeah, so I think the construction time frame is 2026, if I remember correctly. And I was trying to look it up real quick. And then, I don't remember where I put it. And then completion by 2028.
Okay.
So it's going to be a little while. You got the public hearing for VDOT is July 16th. The right-of-way work will begin in 2025. The advertisement for construction bids will be fall 2026. Construction begins spring 2027. Construction completed fall 2028.
Okay.
Now, the real bulk of this will be when they have to create detours around there, and it
I was just thinking that.
inconveniences everybody for that time period. Then that's when all the real heat comes out. And it's just part and parcel with what we do. I've been saying it for 10 years. Like, I've only been on council I did 4 years term, and then this is a year and a half in the mayor, and I've been saying it since we passed. Like, it's quiet now, but once this project starts, you're going to hear about it from everybody.
Right.
That's just the way it works. I will say, and I said it last night in our meeting, I do put onus on myself now in my position as mayor to try and be inventive, to find ways to educate the public on the things that we do. And
yes, the more you learn, the more you know about it, the less fear there is, less anxiety.
And a lot of times, and I was telling John earlier, it's like, I understand. Like, we all have lots of inputs and distractions, right? Especially now we carry a personal computer in our pocket. Our lives are busy. There's so much in the world telling us to be anxious and angry. And so I get it, that it's hard to keep up with everything. And
Well,
so
just take your shoes off and walk in some grass for a
Right.
little while, or go for a walk in the woods or a park or something.
But it can be hard on public officials who host public hearings, host public comment periods, host public meetings, and you don't get much engagement, and then you make a decision because it's a representative government and you're representing the people and you're taking what you believe is the right choice given the inputs that you have, and then after the fact everybody comes out.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
That's human nature.
yeah. And so, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect in any sense, because I am not. I'm as fallible as the next. But I will say I am seeking ways to engage and supply information to the public in ways that hopefully that can get to them, because I want you to know. I want you to know the information. I want you to have it on hand. I know that if I don't supply that information, it creates a vacuum space that can be filled
Well, it
with
also
all kinds of
covers
stuff.
you, because you're going to offer that information out there, and it's up to the people in the town, whatever, to absorb it or to gain knowledge of it.
And so that comes to the next item that's been fun, which has been the splash pad.
Yeah, I understand there's some problems.
It's been such a headache. Yeah. The process of construction has been a headache and delayed with weather and materials and labor and all that stuff has been tough. But when we had the grand opening, one of the small pumps was already down, and we knew that. And it was some of the jets that shoot out of the ground. And we're like, all right, we can, as long as the big features are working, the kids will have fun, we can start the process and open it. And so we did. And then the crew who's been trained on it from Public Works noticed some things that were a little off and went and double checked. And now some of the structural stuff holding up tanks, the piping has started to show wear unusual. And so there's some structural stuff with like just some of the infrastructure holding up some of the columns that hold up the water tanks and things that have issue. And so we've contacted the installer, and they are going to have to fix it on their dime. We have not paid them in full, and so there's money that's being withheld right now. They'll end up losing some money on this deal as far as having to pay for a new tank, pay for some new infrastructure maintenance on it. We think that we can get it up and running within hopefully like the next week. And the plan is to get it up and running, run it to Labor Day, and then when we shut it down is when they'll come back and fix a bunch of things, and then we'll winterize it, shut it down, and then open it back up in the spring. My impression, and I can't say this for certain, so I'm often wary to just throw things out there, but this was a big project for these folks and one of the bigger ones. And Alta Vista has a splash pad that the same company built, and they just had theirs closed down for a short bit as well. So there's some similarities there that have to do with the maintenance of the infrastructure. I'm hoping that we can get it all squared away and have things going and rolling. I will say there was once again a social media outcry. Somebody, of course, posted about GI issues that they thought were related to the splash pad.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. So then you had all kinds of people like, oh, they must be taking the water from the lake, and all these things that are just, once again, vacuum, absence of information.
They're not taking water from the lake.
No.
Okay.
Why? No.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, no, the water comes from town, so it's already treated at our town facilities. Then it comes to that facility, and it recirculates in a filtration system that treats the water as well.
Right.
So no, there is a bacterial virus going around, like stomach bug, in town.
Oh.
Yeah. And so if you're sick, that's why we say if you're sick, don't bring your kids to the splash pad, because now they're piled up with a bunch of kids.
Well, I saw where you opened it.
Yeah.
You had the tents and everything.
Yeah.
There was a lot of activity and everything. But since then, I hadn't
Yeah,
really
we shut
seen
it down because of those structural issues that we needed to get ironed out. And in the meantime, because of the outcry that happened online where people thought this, thought that, there were people who were like, no, I've never even been to the splash park, but I've had the same issues. The Piedmont Health Center sees all the ER stats for who comes in, and so they can monitor if there are any outbreaks of anything. And there's no evidence of any outbreak related to that. And so they're going to help us with language about like public health when it comes to these open public spaces and how you shouldn't show up if you're sick and that sort of thing. As we open it back up, just to try and stress to people that, yes, if you show up and you have like the norovirus.
Is that what's going around?
I think there's a little bit of that going around. And so, then you're at risk of infecting other people. And, we need to try and mitigate that. Those are the things, as a public official, those are the things that can be hard. In a town like our size, I can, if I go on social media or whatever, I can see all that stuff. And you have to figure out when it's right or when it's pertinent for you to weigh in that vein, because the comment section of social media is rife with inaccuracies and misrepresentations and stuff. And it's like, all right, do you feed into that idea that this is the place to go for information? Because while it may work in a small town like ours, because it is a small town and I am engaged, it's not participation in democracy. Like, participation is in person. You need to show up. You need to talk to your representatives. You need to email them. You need to call them. You need to show up at the meetings. Like, these are the ways to engage in this republic of democracy. Social media engagement doesn't really do it. And on a scale like...
Well, people will say and do things on social media that they wouldn't in person to person, basically.
That, and I don't want to train you or suggest that that's the way to engage with your elected officials, because outside of our town, you're not going to get responses. Like, you're not going to engage your state government or your federal government on social media. They're not going to respond to you. There's not a mechanism by which that works. So if I train you to believe that I'm doing a disservice to you in those other realms, right? Here locally, yes, I can see that, and I have engaged at times, and I will continue to, where I think it's right to set the record straight. But I want people to know that that's not true engagement in the democratic process. Like, true engagement is showing up. And if you show up to meetings, I guarantee you, because I see it happen every day. I saw it happen last night. We had 8 people show up to voice their concerns in the public comment period about a project that it's not before the town, but it's still a project in town proposed. And at the end, everybody on the dais, all the council members and myself, we thank them for coming and participating. Even if you're there and you're telling me something I may not like I am thankful that you're there because you're participating. And that's important to us.
That's right.
And so that's my little soapbox there, is that participation is important.
It is important, and I think that you should say something about it. Absolutely.
Very briefly, I also this past month had my Virginia Municipal League Legislative Committee meeting, which is the advocacy and organization around local government entities in Virginia. I'm on the Legislative Committee, which is the committee that formulates what legislation as a body, as a collective, we're going to advocate for or advocate against in the General Assembly at the state level. So what I always tell people is, like, look, for the next few months, I'll be attending these meetings where I can put my thumbprint down on what's important to localities like us, what we want to see more of, what we don't want to see. And so if people have ideas or things they want me to advocate for, you're welcome to contact me. I know that, like, in-house, our town administration folks and our chief of police and our fire department chief, they'll come to me with stuff that they see floating around as possible bills, and they'll tell me, okay, this is something I agree with, or this is something I don't agree with. And that helps inform me in these legislative committee meetings to say, from my locality's perspective, this is good or this is bad. Can we shape it this way and advocate for this sort of work? So another touch point for government and engagement.
Absolutely. Okay. It sounded like you really did have your hands full last night.
Yeah, it was like
Full
normally we're pretty. I do pride myself on being efficient in our meetings, and a lot of times we get out of there within like an hour and a half. Last night we were there for 3 hours, which is fine. We had a full meeting, and none of us begrudged that. But it is a rarity. I was listening to a mayor from Rogers, Arkansas, and he was saying the same thing. His meetings are very efficient, and all the surrounding localities go much longer. And that's fine, but from my perspective, part of it is the legwork that we do beforehand, the work we do in work session, the work that we do just in communicating with each other individually, all that stuff, trying to make our time the most efficient it can be.
Absolutely, yeah.
So
That's great.
I enjoy the people I get to serve with, and last night, through all the difficulty and the packed agenda and the evaluations and stuff, was once again just a real touch point for me to recognize that we here in Farmville, and it's something that most folks probably are not aware of, is that we are very fortunate. I go to conferences all the time, and there are a lot of localities, who have very dysfunctional councils and very dysfunctional organizations, and there's a lot of fighting.
Ooh.
And when that happens,
you don't get anything done.
You don't get anything done.
No.
And so we are very fortunate here. We have good people who serve.
We should take everybody here and move them up to Washington.
Yeah, I've been talking about it. If we could shine a light bright enough that they see us, maybe they'll get the picture.
Of course, yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here and giving us all this wonderful information about what's going on and informing the town of some things that are going to be coming up and solving some problems that you have with the water park and everything. So, yeah, we appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And
I appreciate being here.
Well, you're very welcome. Have a fantastic day.
I will.
And we'll talk to you next month.
Yeah, have a good weekend.
Okay, thank you. All right, that was our mayor, Brian Vincent, informing us about what's going on in the town of Farmville, and it all sounds good and progressing well. We'll put it that way. All right, we're going to take a break now for some weather along with our birthday calendar, and then we'll get to our phones. This is WFLO, AM 870 in Farmville, Virginia, and we're streaming online at WFLO.net. This is the Call Flow Radio Show. Chris Wood and Noah Massage will be joining me pretty soon. He's going to talk with the mayor there for a little bit. So let's get to our weather forecast for Southside and Central Virginia. And we'll go ahead and get into detail with that. And let's see here. We'll check the temperature first. It's 75 degrees out there right now, but it feels pretty nice. Today we'll see lots of sunshine with a high around 91 degrees with north winds at around 5 miles per hour. For tonight, a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. Then showers likely, possibly a thunderstorm after 2 a.m. It will be mostly cloudy with a low around 70 degrees, with a chance of precipitation at 70%. Friday, showers and possibly a thunderstorm with a high near 80 with northeast winds at 3 to 5 miles per hour. Chance of precip is at 80%. For Friday night, a chance of showers and thunderstorms, otherwise mostly cloudy with a low around 69, chance of precipitation at 50%. For Saturday, a chance of showers and thunderstorms before 8 a.m., then a chance of showers between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m., then a chance of showers and thunderstorms after 2 p.m. You get all that? Okay. Partly sunny with a high near 90 degrees. Winds will become westerly around 5 miles per hour in the afternoon. Chance of precipitation is at 40%. Saturday night, a chance of thunderstorms before 8 p.m. Otherwise, mostly clear with a low around 70. Chance of precip is 30% with, looks like it would be, the winds will be pretty much calm. On Sunday, We'll see sunny skies with a high of 96, so we've got the heat coming back. Sunday night, mostly clear with a low around 71. For Monday, sunny and hot with a high near 97. Monday night, mostly clear with a low around 72. All right, let's get to our stats. And we've got humidity at 70%. Our winds are calm. Barometer at 29.99 inches. Our dew point is 64. We're fair outside and 75 degrees. That's your weather forecast on WFLO AM. It's time now for our birthday calendar, perhaps anniversaries as well. It's brought to you by Creative Electrical Contractors, located at 1907 East 3rd Street in Farmville. Oops. Well, let's do this. We'll do the music first. All right.
Yes. How you doing, Chris? Chris, good morning to you. Long time no see.
A long time no see. All right, we've got our birthdays here.
Yes, we got important work. That's the calendar. So let me just get cracking.
We'll get to it, then we'll get to our commercial, and everything is good.
That sounds good. So today is July 11th, to let the people know. That's the birthdays we're going to be reading off today.
Right.
And possible anniversaries. But I'm going to just warn you guys, I don't see any anniversaries right off the bat.
Do you see birthdays?
I do see a couple of birthdays.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
first birthday on the list is Tiffany Sisk, and that's Sisk. Sisk?
Yes.
Very
correct.
Ooh, that's a good last name.
It
I
is
wish I
Sisk.
had that last name.
Yeah.
All right, and then Mike Hayes.
I like massage.
Oh,
just keep it at massage.
thank you,
yes.
Chris.
Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Mike Haynes, or not, I'm sorry, Hayes.
Hayes. Okay.
Yeah. And the last one is Hudson Gray Hurley. Got the middle name featured in that name.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
Hudson Gray Hurley.
That's a pretty name.
That is a pretty name.
Yeah, or a handsome name or whatever.
I never got your middle name, Chris.
I don't have one.
Oh, I think we did talk about this.
Yeah, it's
okay.
a lot of times it's just oops.
Yep.
I'm such a klutz.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah. Or, idiot, whatever.
No.
Yeah. All right.
When I was young and I would drop something because they called me Butterfingers. That's the name my parents came up with. They were like, "All right, Butterfingers, drop another expensive plate. Do it. Come on, we dare you." It was insane, Chris. Anyways, sometimes they would call my name and I couldn't tell if they were calling my name or if they were saying no. Noah, and then no, if you just space that out in the middle, it's it's exactly their expression every time I did anything ever. But
I got it.
Back to you, Chris.
Oh, thank you.
It's enough of me.
Well, actually, you've got to tell those people how they can get their names on the birthdays.
Yes, they can email them birthdays at WFLO.net. And they can also call those in at 434-394-0924. And I'm only running off of my first cup of coffee today, so I'll just put that out there.
Okay, well, you're doing pretty well with it.
Thank you. I know.
Yeah.
barely, Chris.
Oh. All right, well, the birthday calendar is brought to you by Creative Electrical Contractors.
Creative Electrical Contractors specializes in commercial and industrial projects and offers quality work at competitive prices. CEC is a licensed Class A contractor in Virginia and North Carolina. Creative Electrical Contractors has been in business for 25 years, still committed to the values that were established when the company opened in 1998. Integrity, quality workmanship, and timely delivery. CEC, located at 1907 East 3rd Street, Farmville. You can contact CEC at 434-392-3802 or at creative-electrical.com.
All right. Thank you there. All right. Our time is 8:40, almost 8:47 now. And we took a little more time with the mayor because
it was a great interview.
Yeah.
I was listening closely.
Yeah.
That was great.
All right.
It is interesting though that he mentioned that people with the roundabout things. I did want to kind of bring this up and touch on it. People are acting like it's a new thing. And I get that because it hasn't been really kind of talked about, I guess, since the previous ones. But I remember back in 2020 when they were okay, we're going to do it. And I've been waiting. Every time I drive there, I'm when's the roundabout?
Yeah, when are they going to come?
Because
when are they going to do this?
I hate that intersection for the reason every time I pull up to it, it's turning red. every time, no matter how I go, like whatever direction I'm coming from, it's always turning red. So I got to wait like 25 minutes. It feels like. I feel like I don't know. It's just like I could do so much. I could fold laundry in the amount of time I'm just parked.
I could probably fold my laundry there too, but recently I've been pretty lucky. And every time I come across the hill on, I guess it's Oak Street.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm saying, well, am I going to have to wait? Or am I gonna have to? But we'll discuss this in a minute. But I believe we've got Henry on the line here. Let's see. Good morning. You're on the Call Flow Show.
Hey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine, Henry. How are you doing?
Oh, about halfway, yeah. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, well, we sort of ran over time with Mayor Vincent and had to get our birthdays and stuff done. So anyway.
That's good, that's good.
Did you get any rain up in Lynchburg?
Pardon?
Did you get rain last night?
I don't know.
Did you get some storms?
We've gotten several rains in the last 2 or 3 days, but none really sufficient.
Ah, yeah.
But
I know you guys are in a pretty serious drought up there.
Yeah. I like to, as you know, play little word games. Not the big words like you do, but
I don't do big words.
Like a hairdryer.
Uh-huh.
That's something you use on a wet rabbit.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Broccoli. That was Robert E. Lee's grandson. Broccoli.
Broccoli. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He was a vegetarian, I think.
Broccoli.
Yeah.
Okay.
A hot dog. An animal with long hair.
Mm-hmm. It's a hot dog. That's right.
Yeah. Celebrate or give it away. You can celebrate or you can just give the braid away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Cantaloupe, you're already married. Yeah.
Cantaloupe. That's a good one.
Yeah. Microwave, a short salute.
Uh-huh. Okay. Got it.
Arthritis, or just give us a call.
Uh-huh. All right.
Arthritis. Well, anyway, I know you remember Lauren Orange.
Not personally, but I know of him, yes.
Yeah. And he was about 6'6", or maybe 6'7". And he told me one day he had crippling arthritis. And I shared some things about Jesus and put my left hand on his shoulder. And I felt a surge of sympathy well up in my chest. And I told him to find a good church home, and I left. I didn't see him for several years, and he told me that he had felt electricity go through his body the day I put my hand on his shoulder. And for years, he had no problem with the crippling arthritis. For he said the power went through his body the moment my hand touched his shoulder. But I just, want to say that was not my power. I don't have any power. But the power of God running through my hand to Lauren. And, it's like a dipper. A dipper doesn't have any power to help, but the water in the dipper is what does the work. And we're a little short on time, so I'll move along. Jimmy Wooten was a guitar player and singer from up around Glenmore in Buckingham. But arthritis set in, and he could not raise his arms over his head. In fact, he couldn't raise his arms at all, nor could he play the guitar anymore. So he asked his friend and my friend, David Patton, from the Dillon area, to pray for him. So David prayed for him, and instantly he was healed and began to play and sing again with no pain whatsoever.
Wow.
And that was truly a miracle. let's see. We got time for maybe a couple more. When our granddaughter Faith was 5 or 6 years old, she was sick, and Christy called for prayer for her at night. And the next morning, before I went to work, and I would usually leave about 3:15 to go to work. So next morning, I put my hand on a picture of her and prayed for her. And I looked at the clock, and it was 3:22, 22 after 3. And then I went to work. Well, that evening, Christy called and asked me what I was doing at 3:22 that morning. And I told her I had my hand on Faith's picture and was praying for her. And then I asked Christy why she wanted to know what was going on at 3:22. She said that Faith was asleep, but at 3:22 she called out my name.
Oh, wow. That gives me goosebumps.
Yes, amen. And I've got a story that I want to share. Since it involves people that used to be in the area, but only for a couple of months. And this happened about 20 years ago. The TV station in Lynchburg, WSCT, had hired a new lady reporter to be in their Roanoke office. And she was from a TV station, I believe in Charlotte, North Carolina. And she went to work in Lynchburg, Roanoke, I mean. She was beautiful to look at, and she was the best of any female reporter that I'd ever heard. She was really good. A couple of months later, they hired a new weather reporter for the Lynchburg office. And a couple more months went by, and one night, Joyce and I were watching the 6 o'clock news on Channel 13. We watched 13 because Christy worked there. She was did some on-air stuff, but mostly she was a camera operator. And so this lady reporter in Roanoke finished her Roanoke news, and then she said the man's name and said, can you tell us all about the weather? And my voice cried out, they're having an affair. So Joyce scolded me, and she said, you don't know nothing about it. I said, they are having an affair. Well, several weeks later, they both disappeared. And I asked Christy one day on the phone what happened. And so she wanted to know why I wanted to know. And Joyce told her why I wanted to know. And then Christy scolded me. But a few days later, Christy called and said she had called one of her friends over Channel 13, and she was told that management had found out this couple were having an affair, and they fired both of them. They'd only been there for about 3 months, and that was years ago. I don't even remember the name, but isn't it strange how that, you know, I thought, well, why would they do that?
Body language.
I mean, why would I see that?
Yeah,
Wow.
you know, body language maybe. I don't know.
It's almost like you're it's almost like you're a psychic, Henry, a little bit. So you got like that. You're in tune.
Well, it's not psychic. It's the Lord will have you speak things you didn't know about. I've had that happen so many times.
Yeah.
Not just people saying you don't know what you're talking about, but I mean, real. It's a spiritual thing. Everybody, God's got a plan for all of us, and there's a specific thing that we're supposed to do, and He gives this gift to some to do that. He has a gift for somebody else to do something else, but it's up to him. And one day I asked the Lord, I said, where his word says it's almost impossible for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. Mm-hmm. And so I said, Lord, if I were suddenly to become rich, would it be almost impossible for me to enter your kingdom? And that little voice said to me, that quiet little voice said, you don't have to enter the kingdom. You're already in. Mm. The day you accept the Lord, you're in the kingdom.
Wow.
And there's no power can run you out. No, you can't overturn his power.
Let me, do you mind if I ask you a question, Henry? I'm just curious, just like for my
sure.
I know.
Ask away.
Okay, I know some people that are like Christians. They believe in like the once saved, always saved. Are you a type of person that would agree with that theology, or would you be like the type of person?
What did you say it was?
Once saved, always saved, I think.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
God don't make mistakes.
Yeah.
God don't make mistakes. You're either saved or unsaved. And if he saves you, he already knows everything about your future. And if you have asked him to save you, sincerely ask, then he saves you, and there's nothing can take you out of his hand, because his hand is stronger than any other power in existence anywhere. There's no way you could get lost. If it did, we'd all be lost. Mm. Some people used to say that, and probably some still do, that if you're a Christian and you commit a sin, you go to hell. But then, because you didn't ask to be forgiven. But, I mean, if that were true, everybody would go to end up in hell. Mm-hmm. Because none of us are perfect. We all, every day, commit some type of little sin, whether it's commission or omission.
Yeah.
Right.
None of us are perfect, but he was.
That's right.
When he walked on earth, he was perfect. Well, and he was our substitute.
Yeah, that was a nice question, Henry. I mean, Noah.
Yes, it was.
And a good answer. And so we're going to have to leave with that, okay?
Oh, okay. All right, dear.
All right.
Anybody call if you want prayer or whatever. And
what's the number?
414-0096.
Okay.
And pray for a lady named Pat, P-A-T, Pat.
Pat, okay.
From Chatham, Virginia.
All right, we'll do that.
All right.
All right, take care. Have a good weekend.
All right.
Talk to you later.
You all too. God bless.
Bye-bye. All right, we run just a little bit over, but...
no problem.
Yeah, no problem. Good show today. Noah?
Chris?
We'll talk later.
Yes, that sounds like I'm in trouble.
No, you're not in trouble. You're not in trouble. Take care, everybody.
WFLO AM 870 Farmville.